What's up, y'all? I'm Kente Scott, and that is my sister.
Shonda Scott.
Also my co-host of What Sibling Rivalry, the podcast, and the video. We are up in here. How you doing today, sister?
I'm doing great. Just, just taking it all in, trying to find ways to just, relax and rest and recharge.
Yeah. Recharge and release. What they used to say on Different World, relax, release. I forgot. Debbie Allen had a saying, it was like three of them, but it ended with release. Because there's a lot going on. Condolences to Breonna Taylor's family, who's dealing with this issue again 190 days later. You all know, we've seen in the news, the Kentucky Attorney General decided he blamed it on the grand jury, he decided not to charge any of the officers who actually hit Breonna Taylor with a bullet. They only charged the one who missed. So he got charged for hitting a wall, not hitting a person. So
yeah,
Kentucky,
yeah. It's like, it almost says, it's like it's setting it up in a way that says a license to do whatever you want to Black people, and it's okay, there's no recourse.
Right.
There has to be some recourse this time, because we are, like Ida B. Wells said, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, we over it.
Right.
And,
it's sad that we're no longer surprised by these non-indictments. Like, it's like, oh, okay, it's what you always do. Like, it's a simmering anger. Like, this time it's just like it's too much. And the guy and the rationale that they give, because here's the thing: before the Mike Brown grand jury, 99% of cases that went to a grand jury went to trial. They ended in indictments. They didn't necessarily go to trial, but they ended in indictments, because the whole purpose of the grand jury is because the prosecution is supposed to present a case favorable enough that the grand jury will basically give it a stamp to move it forward.
I find it interesting that, how often is the Attorney General the one talking about these cases? It's usually the DA. So since he's a Black man, it's interesting that they decided that he needed to be the one to present the information, because I haven't noticed that it's Attorney General that speaks on these. It's usually the DA in the area that's speaking on this. So I think,
they gotta put the face on it that'll make the message softer to talk to your people. You're not like somebody said, all skin folk ain't kin folk, but 99% of the cases.
Mallory, is that her name, from Black Lives Matter?
Oh yes,
she got in and she told it like it is. And she brought it back to, like, I think on everything that happens, I think there's some self-reflection that has to happen. And she was like, there was Black people that sold Black people in order for them to have the slavery. Right. The passage had to have allies on their side that were not our allies that looked like us.
Right.
But like, she said, all kin folk ain't, all Black skin folk ain't kin folk. That famous quote, which is actually true.
Which is true. We've been used, or there's always been, the spook who sat by the door. We've always allowed ourselves to be used to infiltrate our culture. Like, I don't know, everybody else probably does it, but we are quick to grab that bag and be like, hey, I'll do it. I'll go whip that slave. I'll make sure he knows his name.
Ours is so bad because it part of the passage, a little passage that happened, is that people from the motherland had to be trading other people from the motherland, and it's like, it carried over to this land too. But the spook that sat by the door was supposed to be the one sitting there in the room at the table giving the information. That's why it's important to have people that look like you, that have the commitment of the community too, at the table, because then you have a different voice and a different answer. So anyway, it serves us no good just to have someone there just because of their color. Like, I'm never for that in any election or anything. It's like, if you're not going to be there and not be an advocate for the culture and the cause that's happening, then I don't care what color you are. You know what I mean? That doesn't matter. It doesn't help. It doesn't do anything. If you're not helping Black lives socially, economically, and with justice, and you're at the table and you're a Black live, then you could be green. If you help in the cause, then we're all for it. That's what it's about. Equity.
Yes.
Equity.
And that
justice.
goes to this November election. We gotta, I've said it before, but we gotta remember to vote from the bottom up. We always worry about the president, but that doesn't affect us locally. And if in Ferguson, they changed that. They changed their whole landscape of their local government because of how they did the Mike Brown case. So Louisville, Kentucky has the same opportunity right now to change the landscape, even if it's at the midterm elections or 4 years from now, to change the landscape of those people who didn't utilize the vote that you gave them. They voted that person in. That person was voted in. So if he's not doing what you want to do, you can vote him out. And then after you vote, we got to hold folks accountable. You know, we grew up with parents that went to city council meetings, and you still go to school board meetings and school board council meetings and all of that, but so that they can know, oh, these constituents show up. Like, our votes are taken for granted because we vote and disappear. You know, yeah, I voted for Clinton and disappeared. But you don't hold anybody accountable. Then after the fact, we want to complain about it. Go to the city council meetings. Let your mayor and your city council people know your name. Once they start knowing your name, they start changing how they think about policing you or making policy for you and your neighborhood. But that's our part. We got to do our part as well. And it's not you know, the protesting and all of that is beautiful. But after you vote, hold those folks accountable. The vote is just the start of it.
Right. Yep, you got to vote and protest or stand, you know, keep people accountable. But the voting is important. And that's why, speaking of voting, let's just shift it a little bit. Did you see Get Your Booty to the Polls video?
That's my favorite PSA.
I'm not mad at it. I mean, I kind of was like, you know, that's interesting in the way they were just breaking it down to him. Like, you know, if you want to make it rain, you got to be able to, you know, they tied it all to the local election. They were talking the same thing. That was pretty ingenious.
That was ingenious. Like, I love that they use their platform because it even goes back to the Bible. You got to meet them where they are. There's plenty of voters in the strip club just hanging out.
There are plenty of non-voters in the strip club.
Exactly.
So that's what they're trying to say too. Like, don't sit here and not vote. This is impacting your life. This is making a difference. Like,
even, I think, go a step further. If you got an I voted sticker and you go into the strip club, you should get a free lap dance. I'm with that.
Now you're getting into the man's money, so whatever. That's what
it's just one lap dance. It's one lap dance. They still gonna tip. It's just one lap dance.
Get your booty to the polls. That's all I'm saying.
I love that one. That's amazing.
That was a good one. So we have a fun show today. I'm excited.
And our guest just showed up, so we can bring them on in. I'm excited about this one. You know I am. Shonda and I are excited. We've been working on getting these two on our podcast, and they came together. Quarantine is working, y'all. The quarantine is working. We're getting some fabulous folks up in here. You've known them for years, like decades. You remember them from when they was little. Like I said, they've been doing interviews since they 10, 11 years old. Ray been on TV since he was 7 years old. These are the Leonard brothers, Ray and Jarrel Leonard. Their father is Sugar Ray Leonard, one of my boxing favorites. I actually did a boxing scene with him in LA Heat. We'll talk about that later. But please, welcome to What Sibling Rivalry, Ray and Jarrel Leonard, the Leonard brothers.
Yay!
Oh, thank you, Kente and Shonda. Thank you. We appreciate you having us on. It's fun. And this whole quarantine thing is like we actually getting to spend more time together because I'm on the West Coast and he's on the East Coast because of this right now. So we appreciate it.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, I just wanted to set it up for the listeners because, you know, some of our listeners don't even remember when there wasn't an internet, when there were only 4 TV networks that were on. There were only 4 channels you really had. And if you had cable, man, you were like living the luxury life. So we're talking about a time when Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine was the only thing that we had in Black America to see positive images of ourselves, and your family were one of those positive images. So I'm telling you that you guys, I'm the big sister that you guys never knew you had. us African Americans, we saw Ebony magazine and Jet magazine with your family on there, and your family was our family. So we was cousins and siblings, even if you didn't know. So it's a pleasure to actually meet you and talk to you, because we've loved you even before we even meet you on What Sibling Rivalry.
Yeah. So we gonna say, "What's up, cousins?"
Yeah, we all family out here. So
Yeah,
that's right.
Ain't nothing changed. So I'm old enough to remember when you watch TV and TV would go off.
Yes.
So I'm dating myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But times have changed.
Yeah.
And you're dating yourself in a sense too. When I saw that you all are adults with families, and I'm like, I'm still have you in the Jet magazine when the babies came. I remember Jarrel. I remember even you coming around, because then they mentioned that they were having another child, and it was just like, what a cute story, and how much you guys, in our life back then. Even now, African Americans still are looking for images to inspire them. But back then, we really didn't have that many. So you all were ones that inspired like all of America, but especially African American. And it was such a happy time. And that's what Sibling Rivalry is all about too, how we were brought up and raised, and how those values and those times are still applicable for today.
To keep up with the latest on What Sibling Rivalry podcast, please subscribe to us on your favorite platform. On Apple Podcasts, click on the subscribe button. And please don't forget to leave us a review and rating. On Spotify, click on the follow button under our picture. And on Stitcher, click on the plus sign under our picture. This will keep you up to date on all the fun and funny.
Yeah.
But I want to ask Ray real quick, what was that like? I'm sure you've heard people all your life with the same kind of story that I'm telling about how you and your family impacted us, as far as, seeing you on the commercials and seeing you in Ebony and Jet magazine. What was that like growing up as a young child, though, and now into a man? What was that like for your life?
Well, we didn't realize the magnitude of it, or what was actually going on really while I was growing up, because it was all happening so fast. My parents are only 16 years older than me, and we started in Palmer Park, Maryland. We had nothing, and all of a sudden it just took off, and we had this meteoric rise to success, and everybody knows your name. And you're walking around to the malls, and then people are clapping or saying nice things to you, and they recognize you. And so it was a kind of a whirlwind thing. And when we did the 7-Up commercial, I didn't even want to be on TV. I'm such a shy person, a person that's introverted, really. And I had to bribe my father. I said, "Look, you got to buy me a 3-wheeler if I'm gonna do this commercial." Not knowing anything about residuals. I didn't know about residuals. Now, once I learned about that, I was like, "Okay, this is even better."
You're right. Where's my money, huh?
Exactly.
I'm gonna need a toy if I show up.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So then, what was your life then, Jarrel? Because yours was by the time when you came, then you guys were star-studded, fabulous to yourselves even. You always were that to us in the world, but to you came into this.
Right. So me and my brother, we were 11 years apart. So by the time I got there, my dad's career was coming towards the end, but he was still, very famous and doing very well. And I just thought that this was the norm. We used to go out to dinner and go to movies. I'm like, why is everybody coming up to my dad asking for autographs and pictures and all that? So it really didn't hit me, and until I got a little bit older and figure out, who he really was in the community, how much he meant to people of color, coming up, like you said, you really didn't have that back in those times. So to have that kind of family and the people of the color and power like that was really something special. And it didn't hit me till later on, but when it hit me big.
Yeah, I have a question for both of you, because you guys are both, like I said, very grounded, very well-rounded men, like that had to come from growing up. How did your parents keep a level of normalcy in all of that, pomp and circumstance and celebrity world? I know it's not as crazy as it was now as it was then. Then as it was now, but how did they keep a level of normalcy to let you guys just be kids?
Well, I guess I'll go first. I think they just figured it out of necessity. especially my mother. My mother was the rock, and she wanted to make sure that we had some sense of normalcy. I mean, I went to public schools all throughout my life. I didn't ever go to a private school because I didn't want anybody to treat me any different. Even though I had a 300-pound 6'6" bodyguard walking around with me, I kind of stood out a little bit. But but other than that, I wanted to be, just a normal kid and try to have a normal life. And I think my mother was the one that really, put everything, sacrificed so much to make sure that Jarrel and both of us had, some sense of normalcy in the life. And I think that one of the big things is that if you didn't carry yourself in a way that made people think you weren't accessible, and we were humble, we were just happy for the ride, the journey, and enjoying it. So I think that was part of reason why it actually turned into something that wasn't as detrimental as you would think.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, like my brother stated, our family didn't come from money. My dad had to work for it to get there. So we've always had that sense of humbleness that my mother instilled in us, to never think you're better than somebody else and to always stay humble. And I think those were, two of the things that she really instilled in us as young kids growing up. So that really kind of helped us grow up ourselves and realize how to treat people and how to treat the people that was around us.
Cool. And another question for both of you, but I want Jarrel first. Jarrel, you say you're 11 years younger than your brother. How was that dynamic for you growing up? Did it make you guys closer, or did it, how was it for you as the younger brother? And then for Ray, I'm a single father of one. My sister's a single mother of one. And they didn't want no siblings. Like if I'd have had another sibling for my daughter at 11, it would have been a problem. But you say you are like the father brother, so you kind of embraced it. So how did that come about? But Jarrel first, how was it for you?
So I would explain it as a gift and a curse, because of the age difference, we weren't as close back then, as we are now. Just because, being 11 years apart, he was at a different point in his life when I was born. By the time I got to the point where, I was starting to understand stuff, he was in college doing his own thing, trying to get his own life going, because he had a daughter at a young age, so he was trying to do his own thing. But also he was there to teach me the stuff that he had already gone through, the mistakes that he made, what to expect. So that's why I say it was a gift in that sense, because he had the knowledge to instill in me at the young age.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, I mean, that's basically what it was. I wanted to leave kind of a roadmap, for him, because my father was always traveling. So I wanted to be that person for him that was around, that would go to his games and hang out with him, and be that male figure, that positive role model in his life at that point in time. And I mean, when I went off to college, he moved to Atlanta with my mother, and I would always travel back and forth just checking on him, because I always felt that I was the responsible for them. I wanted to be the protector in the household. And it was an interesting dynamic, because now we get to hang out and go talk and do everything. Once he finally got to a position, actually I probably made him start hanging out a little bit early when he was about 14, 15. But no, it was just a different journey of how to do it. And my goal was to try to be as good a person as I could be, to show him that, hey, you can do it too. You don't have to lean on our father or whatever else we have. Because back when I was young, Muhammad Ali told me that all this, whatever you have, can be taken away from you at any moment.
Right.
So always be humble and always be hungry. And so that's how we are. I mean, I work every day like it's past day. So,
right.
I mean, I guess that's it.
Well, you still look like you still look like that little baby to me. I'm sorry. I love that. But part of it is that you have your father's name, Ray Leonard Jr. So people, right. I'm sure they know you before they know you coming in the room. But you both were excelled in sports in college. So did you feel any pressure to keep your father's legacy going because of your last name? Like we have a cousin that fathers was great sports figures, and they have their family's name, and they actually went into the same sport with the family the father went into. And there's a lot of pressure with that, you having to live up to this image and what expectations you have and what the world has of you. So Ray, how did you all balance going to college, playing sports, and then the pressure of the legacy of your dad and you actually carrying your dad's name?
Well, I knew early on that I didn't want to go into the boxing realm. I didn't like getting hit in the face. That part. And I mean, that was a prerequisite for being a boxer. So, I had a few fights and did well, but I just didn't like that. I figured if I put on a helmet and I could inflict some pain on somebody else, and it's a little bit different. So I found family in football because there was so much craziness going on in our life. Football was a centering thing to me because I had to be a part of a team. It wasn't just me as an individual. And then in the track and field side, I just kind of found out that I was good at hurdles because the coach needed somebody else to do it. And for me, getting the college scholarship to go play a sport and have my own success in athletics, that was the gold medal for me. I mean, that was me being the first person in my family ever to go to college and show that here we can follow a different path.
That's great. That's a legacy right there.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great legacy right there. Tremendous.
We